on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great week so far. It is a very beautiful green day in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency land. Feels very rare to see these types of moves in the charts after that insane 50% dump that we had. Now, we are currently struggling at around the $5,800, $5,900 resistance. I am going to talk about this, what I'm kind of looking at the charts for short-term moves. Okay, there are some key levels we do need to keep our eyes on. However, today I want to go into some very interesting revelations. Now that we actually have the data, we can look back on it. I want to talk about what was going on with that Bitcoin dump, who specifically was dumping, because we now actually have the on-chain data that we can analyze. I want to talk about 3 bullish indicators. Yes, I know, bullish indicators right now. Yes, we're going to go into these. I think you're going to be pretty excited when we go over this, but obviously there are some people very negative right now. We do know that even though we're seeing all this green, the prices are not exactly profitable for a lot of the miners. You're hearing about miner capitulation, right? The death spiral that could potentially happen. So I want to go into that specifically with examples, okay? Because it's not like this is the first time it's happened. And finally, we have 2 pieces of fundamental news that really nobody's talking about right now, which is extremely good for Bitcoin. I'm not saying the price is going to pump tomorrow based on this news, but I am saying that, within the mid to, the mid to short term, long term, very good for Bitcoin. Definitely going to want to stick around to the end, guys. We have lots of content in this video. We're going to cover lots of grounds today. So if that sounds good to you, you know what to do. If you are not subscribed, well, we are going to try to do this every single day, right? We did take a little bit of a break, had a lot of stuff going on, but guys, I am feeling good right now. So let's give this a refresh, see what's going on. So noticing right now, Bitcoin dominance, we have 64.8%. Now it was down in like the 63%. So this is showing that some of the money is going back into Bitcoin. In fact, you could see Tether. Well, Tether is back at $1. This morning it was trading at around 98 cents. So everybody was rushing out of Tether back into Bitcoin, right? Now having a look right here, we do have the S&P looking like it's maybe trying to recover, but essentially still just having mostly a dump. You could see gold the same as well. However, Bitcoin chart does look a little bit better. I mean, we actually have, more of a solid green candle here. However, of course, we are starting to hit that resistance, which I do want to talk about. The one thing I do want to mention though, which is a plus, right, is that we are back above the 200 weekly moving average. We know how incredibly important this average is for Bitcoin. We really don't want to fall below it. That was the absolute bottom of the major bear market of 2018. Now, before we get excited, keep in mind this is a weekly candle. It's only Thursday. Might be Friday, wherever you're watching, but yeah, we need to put in a nice solid green candle above this, for the week. So essentially, we do need to close this week out above the $5,500 level. Obviously, I'll get back to you on that come the weekend. Having a look right here, though, we have put in a nice sort of uptrend, right? We had this nice bottom at around, the ultimate candle was $4,500. Now, we did get down to $3,800, which was pretty incredible. But currently, we are having a lot of trouble getting above the $6,100 level. Is going to be a lot of resistance. You can see where we struggled right here. Now, we do have some support. We have the VPVR level, 5,380. So we might sort of bounce around between, maybe the lower 5,000s. Actually, we might basically just bounce around in the $5,000 area, to be completely honest with you, because the area that we need to break is 6,100, and then we could continue this uptrend. Now, I just want to point out that if we are to get above this level, there is really not much going on, between 6,100 and $7,800. So this is if, and this is a big if, okay? I'm stressing if Bitcoin does happen to maybe bounce around here, even if we have a fake out back down to the low 5,000s, and then we finally do break out, there's a good chance that Bitcoin could get back to $7,800 pretty damn quick. Now, obviously, I know there's a lot going on right now globally in the world, with the virus that shall not be named, and a lot going on with the Fed and the printing of the money. We're going to get into that in just a second, but Chainalysis found that transfers, and check this out, of 10 to 100 and 100 to 1,000 Bitcoin. So think about that, 1,000 Bitcoin. That's a lot of money, even by today's standards, being at the levels that we're at, accounted for about 70% of the Bitcoin sent and received from crypto exchanges in the recent days, which is slightly higher than usual. Interestingly, and this is even crazier, about 10% of that Bitcoin was transfers over 1,000 Bitcoin. Now, we have talked about how the institutions were the ones that were panic selling, right? So obviously this is telling us that, well, the big sellers were the whales. Yes, the retail had some after panic potentially, but it was mainly the whales that were selling. And you can see here, if we actually look at it over the course of the last year, the percentage of accounts that were holding Bitcoin for over 5 years has actually increased over 20%, whereas according to the waves, all the recent transactions that were sold involved coins that were stored for a half year or less, which means that most of the people that were pumping a lot of the pumping of the market that was happening in 2019, those exact same accounts were the ones that were dumping. These are all short-term, whatever you want to call them. I mean, we don't know who has these wallets, but essentially the people that were selling were the people that just recently bought. So it's people that are either new to crypto, maybe they don't believe in it, they're just the institutions that have to sell, right? We have the VARs, right? That's a possibility as well. So this is showing us that the hodlers are actually still holding their ground. Now, keep in mind, why does a price bottom out? Well, it bottoms out because people refuse to sell. And that's the hodlers of last resort. You can see a majority of the volume came from UTXOs 6 months or younger. Now, let's talk about what we really need to talk about here, okay? Now, we have Keith Waring. He said that miners, okay, Bitcoin miners who survive the price crash will look to shield themselves from May's block reward halving in advance. The production cost for Bitcoin mining stood at around $8,000 as of last week. Now, before we get into the Bitcoin miners, I just want to point out 3 kind of bullish indicators right here. 2 of them are from Willy Woo alone. Now, this right here is the Bitcoin spent output price ratio. He says being the on-chain net position of investors is recovering, okay? So basically, in a nutshell, people who got wrecked, okay, recently are essentially out of the markets. They capitulated. Most of them panic sold. They're gone. If they do choose to come back, they're probably going to buy at much higher levels. This is bullish number 1. And the second chart is the Bitcoin on-chain RSI. And according to Willy Woo, he says nobody ever went broke buying Bitcoin at these levels on-chain if you are in it for the long game. And you can see down here, these levels way down here usually present amazing buying opportunities. I mean, look at the levels down here. You basically had the bottom dip of 2017. Right here, you had the massive accumulation and dip of 2015. And of course, you had the ultimate capitulation at the end of 2018 and early 2019, where Bitcoin hit 3,200. And of course, today. So let me know what you guys think about this. Look, there's been a lot of negative stuff, okay? I'm not trying to be a Bitcoin bull. I'm always a Bitcoin bull, you know that. But ultimately, I just wanted to show you guys the lighter side of things, okay? It's been a lot of doom and gloom lately in the crypto space. The other thing is this right here, and this is Bitcoin number of addresses holding 0.1 Bitcoin or more has reached an all-time high. Now, 0.1 Bitcoin, that is telling me that's probably more of like a retail trader wallet, right? You're seeing these bigger exchanges hold massive quantities of Bitcoin, and you can see right here, they hit the all-time high of 2.9 million, which basically is above the previous all-time high, which was on March 18th of 2020. So, increasing Bitcoin addresses, this has always been a good indicator for Bitcoin, right? Now, let's talk about what Hunter Horsley said, okay? Essentially, now keep in mind, he's the CEO over at Bitwise, and he says hugely bullish dynamics for Bitcoin right now, okay? Number 1, Bitcoin flat during historic risk-off days in the market. Number 2, we have 72% on Coinbase. Okay, so 72% of the transactions happening on Coinbase are buying, which means most people are actually getting excited and buying in at these prices. Yes, it could go lower, but I mean, we've had Bitcoin at 20K, 15K, 10K. I mean, the idea of being able to accumulate Bitcoin at these levels again, I know I was waiting for it. Maybe you weren't, but I mean, like obviously if you're in it for the long run. Also, we have the halving 50 days away. Billions in buys coming when leveraged longs return. And if 1% of 2 trillion of stimulus finds its way to Bitcoin, well, we're actually going to do some math on that a little bit later. A little bit later, we're going to do some math on that. But I'll show you that in just a bit. But it's funny, it's not really funny, but obviously we have had the whole quarantine thing going on. But, for most of us in crypto, just another day in, the life of a crypto trader, crypto person, right? Now, obviously over here, we did have this come out where you had Mnuchin basically saying that he wants aid packages to total $1 trillion in response to the mysterious disease, which shall not be named. And yes, they're looking to basically do an airdrop, not in crypto, but the good old USD shitcoin. They're looking to do an airdrop essentially of 1,000 per person. Now, I just want to point this out, okay? It is not just the US. Okay, you have the Federal Reserve printing 700 billion recently. European Central Bank printed 750 billion euros. Bank of England 400 billion pounds. Bank of Japan 12 trillion. People's Bank of China 550 billion. South Korea 11.7 trillion. And let's be honest with ourselves, this is why Bitcoin was made. So, what do you think they're going to do with all this, right? I mean, I don't know. That's maybe they'll just buy some toilet paper with it, right? Maybe. Isn't that what everybody's fighting over nowadays? But maybe some of them will buy Bitcoin. But here's something to consider before we get into the math of it all. So you do have Su Zhu at 3 Arrows Capital. He says, this is in theory the moment that Bitcoiners have been waiting for. Several emerging markets are now pricing insignificant risk of sovereign defaults. USD itself set on an inflationary course it will be hard to turn back from. If Bitcoin markets hold these levels, $50,000 Bitcoin relatively quickly is possible. I know what you're thinking. $50,000 Bitcoin, we got a long way to go from here. It's not really as far to go as you can imagine if you consider what is going to happen with all this printing of the money. I mean, you're basically talking maybe not like Venezuelan hyperinflation style inflation, but you are talking about some massive inflation. Now, here was an interesting article that I saw before we get into the whole minor capitulation FUD, and we are going to disprove some things. Stick around for that. But what the Bitcoin price would be if every American invested $1,000. Well, if we just get our trusty calculator, now keep in mind, this is assuming that everybody gets their 1,000 and they all buy Bitcoin. Probably not going to happen. Definitely not going to happen. But take it with a grain of salt and imagine a small percentage. So, there's, like 330 million US citizens, roughly, give or take, right? So if we multiply that by $1,000 per citizen, okay, and then we divide it by roughly, let's just say 18 million. I know it's more than that Bitcoin, but I'm just giving it a rough estimate right here. So if we divide it by 18 million Bitcoin, that would actually push the Bitcoin price to around $18,333 per coin. Now, assume that even just a fraction of that goes into Bitcoin, and Bitcoin does already have its market cap right now. Even if each American was to put $100 into Bitcoin or $50 into Bitcoin. Imagine what that would do to the overall market cap of Bitcoin. Also keep in mind that it's not like the money just rushes in all at once, okay? It actually, like, as you go to buy, the price gets higher and higher, which pushes the price higher, right? Because you're actually buying, it's not like you're buying OTC. So actually, if each American was to put in $100 in Bitcoin, because they wouldn't all literally be buying at the exact same time, the price would probably be even higher, right? Now, here's the other thing. Now, this came out from Jordan Alicio, right? And he was basically talking about what Credit Suisse had said. And they were basically saying, all in all, central bank sheets are becoming riskier to accommodate the de-risking of the private sector. But what happens when everything blows up again? Do central banks literally go bust, right? Here, listen to these last few sentences right here. Either they do, and we worry about the integrity of fiat currency systems, or they don't because they print money to cover losses, effectively in collaboration with sovereigns as they remit losses back to them, contributing to fiscal deficits, which in turn need more central bank financing. Kind of seems like it doesn't really have an end, does it? Either way, we worry about the integrity of fiat currency or inflation, and here's the real kicker. Therefore, attention starts to turn to alternative currency regimens, whether gold or digital or all of the above. I'm actually going to give this one a like right there. That was a very, very eye-opening, interesting remark from Credit Suisse. Now, we do have the Bitcoin halving event coming up in 54 days. What is going on? Well, since we last spoke, we've actually had a major plummet over here on the hash rate. You can see right here, we actually dropped down to lows. Basically, what we were seeing back in the beginning of the year, wiping away all the hash rate that we've basically gained since the beginning of this year. What does that mean? Well, it means that miners are turning off their equipment. In fact, my buddy over here, if you guys know Mr. Christoph, he's been on the channel. You can see he actually came out with his recent video, Goodbye Mining Farm, letting go of my Bitcoin mining farm. Now, he came out in that video and essentially was discussing that, he wasn't sure what had to go on. And also he said that it was difficult to order these new machines, right? Now, keep in mind that we actually have seen Bitmain coming out with the new S miners. Now, this brings us to a bit of a mining conspiracy, and that's the question of whether or not the miners, the bigger miners, the rich miners, have actually been shorting the market intentionally to push down the price to drive out the competition, right? Sitting in cash. It's pretty crazy. If you go online, there's all this conspiracy about it right now. And then essentially after the halving, they're going to push the price back up and all these guys are going to come back in and they're going to have, and don't forget also it does adjust. We're going to talk about that in a second, but we have Light Crypto saying, if I had to choose just one lesson to keep after years of trading, it would be this. When people start trotting out the miner capitulation narratives, make sure that you're long BTC. Even Don Alt said every single time. However, his only concern obviously was the virus, which shall not be named, which I think is a little bit of all of our concern right now. Let me revert back to this post that came out in December when a lot of people were freaking out talking about miner capitulation. It was right after November when we had that massive dump, right? So basically, he talks about the mining death spiral. Now, if you haven't read this, I'm just going to sort of catch you up on it super quick. Basically, he says the most obvious reason that you shouldn't be worried is that difficulty adjusts every 2016 blocks, roughly 2 weeks. This is fast enough such that severe price shocks are absorbed. That's why the difficulty adjusts, right? Miner profitability is a huge spectrum. The margins range from over 50% profitable still to slightly unprofitable for any given miner at any given time. Now, keep in mind, once it does adjust, then it becomes profitable again for the people that are still mining, right? He says the deeply profitable ones can withstand huge shocks. Remember, as unprofitable miners leave, mining becomes more profitable. I just said that. Miners don't turn machines on or off as aggressively as many assume. There are various reasons that they may mine at a loss for some time, ranging from operational issues to greater business objectives to ideological reasons, but ultimately it does adjust, and we've pretty much debunked the whole idea of a mining death spiral. This is like the third time this topic has been brought up. Doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon. Don't see why this time is different when this was literally built into the protocol. Satoshi had planned for this to happen. So Bitcoin, literally prevents this from happening. Now, I do want to talk about one little issue, one little problem that I have seen lately, and that's confirmation times and gas price, okay? Now you can see we'll get into that in just a second, but you can see Reggie Crypto said, what about the fact that Bitcoin network simply couldn't handle the type of traffic that we're looking for if we do get this mass sort of adoption of Bitcoin, right? Well, getting back to our good old buddy Willy Woo, he said it's because it's not an issue. He tracks this closely. Bitcoin's base chain is not for payments. It's a large container. It's for large containers of investments. Now, I already hear somebody yelling out in the crowd right now, no, but Bitcoin, Satoshi's white paper, it was a P2P electronic cash system. Okay, fine. But seriously think about what we're trying to say here. Cash. If Bitcoin is electronic cash, think about cash. Think about if I had $1. I can give you $1 if you're standing right next to me, right? But how do you send $1 to somebody in another country? Seriously, if you want to send somebody cash in another country, how long would that take you to send to them? Well, you wouldn't probably send them cash. You'd probably do it electronically. If I actually wanted to send you cash across the world, okay, I'd have to literally put it in an envelope, seal it, send it in the mail, and you'd probably get it in a week or two, right? Now, if I wanted it to be faster, well, I'd send you something on Venmo or PayPal. However, keep in mind that those things, even bank accounts themselves, which you can do like, interbank transfers, those are all second, third, fourth, fifth layer solutions, okay? But the idea is for Bitcoin to be the ultimate settlement layer. Just think about that the next time somebody brings that up. I think a lot of people do tend to misinterpret that. However, this is a problem right here. You could see that, yes, Bitcoin's average block time tends to be around 10 minutes. Sometimes we can spike up, to maybe 12 minutes on occasion. But right here, we were having average block times of 14 and a half minutes. This was very frustrating. In fact, I did a Bitcoin transaction yesterday and it took me 20 minutes. That is unacceptable, and I can understand why people are not happy about that. However, I just want to point something out. People also mention like, oh, Ethereum is much faster, this and that. Okay, I do agree on that. I'm not saying it's not. However, I did an Ethereum transaction yesterday with a lower amount of GUI, which is what I usually use, and my transaction actually got stuck for a half hour, and what I had to do was actually send myself 0 Ethereum, go back on the nonce, and then pump up the gas essentially to reverse the transaction, invalidate it from the same wallet. And then I had to resend it again using more gas. And that's supposed to be like easily adopted by people. I've been in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency for over 3 years now, and that was kind of complicated for me. I got a little scared. I'm not going to lie. Okay. So we still have a long way to go, but that brings me exactly to my next point and my big news of the day. And that is the fact that we know that Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, although we don't know how long he'll be the CEO, but anyway, we know that he's been a Bitcoin proponent. We know that he's behind Square. Check this out. So the FDIC, if you don't know them, they're the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. They initiated voting among the board members regarding Square. This is really bullish news, guys. The company wants to put insurance on the holdings to loan. Per the voting results, Square received a green light on creating a crypto bank under Square supervision. The bank's name is Square Financial Services. They spent a second application for approval to the Utah Department of Financial Institution. That's because they reside in Salt Lake City. Again, no troubles with receiving the approvals. So, big news, guys. Square will open a crypto bank in 2021. That's huge. That's huge news. You can see right here, the primary task of Jack Dorsey is to create a crypto bank with loans for institutions as well as small businesses. Jack claimed in the past that small businesses is the basis of the economy, so he decided to support this category of people, not only big corporate sharks. This is understandable. The business will also sell loans to third-party investors as well as receive deposits. Oh, and the other thing that, once again, nobody is talking about, if that news wasn't good enough, is, remember the Backed consumer app? Yeah. That's still happening, despite the fact that we have, this little bit of a, price drop right here, which looks like we're still actually pushing on this level. But essentially, you can see right here, so Bakkt just completed their Series B financing round. They say raising a jaw-dropping $300 million worth of capital, adding to the $182.5 million it raised for its Series A, which saw global coffee giant Starbucks participate. Round participants included the Intercontinental Exchange, the owner of the New York Stock Exchange, Microsoft's venture division, and Boston Consulting Group. So per the post outlining the news, Bakkt will be putting these funds to help roll out their next big project, their mobile consumer app that will unlock nearly 1 trillion of digital assets from cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin to loyalty points. And if you don't remember, what is the big deal about this? Well, imagine one app with all of your loyalty points from all of the different places that you shop, all in one convenient location. Not only is that going to change the way that average consumers shop on a daily basis and are able to transfer their points back and forth, but there's also going to be a little maybe button at the bottom that says, want to convert to Bitcoin? Think about that. Think about the ease of friction that is going to create, allowing people to even just kind of for fun, let me just throw 5% into Bitcoin, right? Just think about the massive exposure that's going to be for Bitcoin. Now, obviously, it does require a lot of these retail vendors and outlets to probably link up to the software for the Bakkt app. I don't know what that's going to do for their point of sale terminals, but hey, think about it, right? It's these things, they take time, but look what they said about the internet, right? So that is basically that moving forward. But I do want to talk about some other two things really, really quick. I did have some people ask me yesterday what my opinion on this news that came out about Jacob Canfield. Now, he was listed as the #1 ranked crypto trading analyst. He was the one behind the counter trade CNBC charts. In fact, we had mentioned him multiple times on the channel. I've had him on the channel before. Now, I don't know him like super personally outside of just the times that we've spoken really for crypto. I do have to say I was very disappointed to find out about this. I don't really understand why, given his background, he decided to basically Photoshop his trades to make them look better than they were. But it looks like he's recently not really responded, and he deleted his Twitter. So that's really unfortunate. I mean, even back in like 2018, I had used Signal Profits. I was using it for like a few months and stuff like that. It's pretty disappointing, and I'm just as shocked as everybody else. But, ultimately when things like this happen, regardless of like he said, she said, it just brings me back to always be responsible for your own trades and don't listen to anyone, not even me. What do I know? I'm just a guy on the internet, And, Jacob Canfield, he was a very well-respected trader who had a lot of experience, and this comes out and it just totally ruins the reputation, and it's really unfortunate. So ultimately, guys, I don't want to bash anybody, okay? It is what it is, but just like seriously be safe out there, and obviously always do your own research and never invest more than you can afford to lose. You do know that. Also, this has nothing to do with crypto. It's a really interesting story. So these guys in Italy, it says that this is just, what do you think about this? Is this even like real news? Apparently they were able to use a 3D printer to print these valves that are being used for the virus that shall not be named. And they're saying that the manufacturer that usually makes these valves sells them for about $11,000 a piece. And with their 3D printer, they've been able to make replicas of them for $1. And it looks like now the guys that make it for the $11,000 are looking to sue them. That's terrible. That's just so horrible. Like, I hope this isn't true. I hope this is fake news. But yeah, I mean, like, these guys are trying to help out. They've cut the cost by, I don't even know the amount. What is $1 compared to 11,000? That's like less than 0.01% of the cost. And now they're looking to sue these guys. That's pretty crazy. But I don't want to end on bad news. I want to end on good news. So the director of the Bank of Russia's legal department has admitted that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies cannot realistically ever be banned in the country. Although cryptocurrencies are not exactly legal in Russia, it does seem that they will not be able to ban it. And as you guys know, cryptocurrency, well, Bitcoin specifically, is your own money. When you hold it, you are your own bank. You are hedging against the global economic turmoil inevitably in the world. And yeah, it's censorship resistant. You guys know how I feel about that. It is the hardest form of money in the world. And having a look before we go, we are apparently just really struggling at this resistance. So I do have a feeling that by the time some of you are watching this video, the price is going to be very different. Long term, you guys know I am still ultimately a Bitcoin bull, and these levels are a godsend for accumulation. Even if we were to go back down to the $3,000 levels, that would be pretty devastating for the good old portfolio right now, but it would be phenomenal opportunities for dollar cost averaging, especially if you're new to crypto, my goodness. So that being said, thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. You're the reason that I do this. I am going to try to do this. The other day, I was saying, I might take some days off. I do have a lot of stuff going on in the background, but like a lot of people reached out and said they were really upset that I wasn't going to be potentially uploading as frequently. So I will try to upload every single day. Okay, guys, I love you guys. You're awesome. You're a great community. Oh, if you want to join the Telegram group too, you can click right here. It's a free community where we just hang out and we just basically talk crypto all day. But that is it for me today, guys. This video has gone on long enough. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. I love you. My name is K-Dub. This is Crypto Zombie. Until next time, stay crypto, and of course,